Welcome back to Bulletproof Mindset, your go-to podcast for health, fitness and entertainment. I am your host, Dale Crossar, and in today's episode, as you can tell from the title, what on earth do you do once the summer is over, once your holiday's over? Is it all about the beach body? What's some things that you can focus on? Well, that's what we get into in today's episode. Just because the summer ends doesn't mean your fitness goals have to. And in today's episode, I dive into some of my favourite things that I do with myself, with my clients, that you can then take on board to live a healthier, stronger and fitter lifestyle. Now, every Monday and Thursday you can expect an episode from myself. Monday I'll usually be a solo episode, and Thursdays is usually from some sort of fantastic guest, either previous guest or new guest, diving into their story and what helps them or what helped them build a bulletproof mindset. Now, if you are new around here, I need a little favour from you. If you would consider, or if you enjoyed this podcast, I'd love to get your support, and one of the best ways I can get your support is by you leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and you can do that for completely free. So if you want to do that just now, I'll wait. No, seriously, I'll wait. Come on, click the 3B buttons. Come on, I'm genuinely waiting. I'll do it right now. Right, enough of that. If you want to watch on YouTube as well, you can subscribe over there, leave a comment. I want to hear from you guys. When your training moves from your summer training to your winter training, what's some of the things that you do nutritionally with your training program? How do you mix it up? What do you do in terms of changing your goals? Leave a comment below this video on Spotify or YouTube, and let's help each other out. I'm going to share them on my Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Coach Crossar and at Bulletproof Mindset __. And with that being said, enjoy today's episode and enjoy the rest of your day. Getting shredded for high rocks just because they're taking pictures is like bodybuilders doing marathons for their prep. Like, it genuinely is the same energy. There is no need to get absolutely peeled just because you're getting a couple of pictures taken in your high rocks and you want to quote unquote look better. In fact, I would go as far as saying the more focus you put on getting shredded for those pictures is actually going to affect your performance in high rocks. If you look at the top athletes, Hunter McIntyre said this beautifully, where he was reckoned if he managed to lose a couple of kilos of body weight that he should in fact perform better, and in fact it made his performance output dramatically worse. I don't know what the time was in the end, but I'm sure it added like 3-4 minutes onto his overall time. So stop trying to get shredded for your high rocks. I know at the end of the day the profile pictures, they might be an aspiration. Maybe that's the reason you're doing high rocks. I guess there is an argument to maybe getting a bit more leaner for those pictures, but getting lean and performing better are they can be two in the same, but they are definitely two completely different. In fact, that doesn't make sense, does it? Now, they are closely correlated, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but they are two separate pursuits. With that being said, on the subjects of shreds, what do you do now that the summer period comes to an end? Everyone usually is trying to chase some sort of aesthetic goals when they get into this time of year or the last couple of months. Now, as we approach into October, it's winter season, and I'll tell you what you do. You shave your head, you get your baggy clothes on, and you go into your winter arc. This is your villain arc, it's referred to in the guys, any sort of guys TikTok just now. It's like black and white filters, exposure is turned all the way down. It's fucking time to add on size, get fucking jacked and get your head down and get on with it. I've been joking to Jillian that I'm going to shave my head and go into this winter arc, but she's not for having it. But see, the more she resists to this, I'll be honest, the more I want to do it. I think all of us guys, we're kids at heart. When someone says, don't do that, instantaneously I'm like, well, I wasn't going to, but see, because you told me not to, now I fucking want to do it. So who knows, maybe I'll go into my own winter arc. But in all seriousness, this is the point of today's episode. We're going to dive into a couple of things that you can do. There's no shoulds, right? It really depends, especially if you're competing in or getting caught up in the whole high rocks world. There's a lot of events in Europe and abroad, and they tend to fall in the later part of this year and into the early part of next year. And yeah, that can be a goal. But I'm going to run through what some goals you might want to try and aspire to. But really, there is a couple of things that tend to happen at this time of year that it's a common trap that a lot of people fall into. So that's what we'll be diving into in today's episode. So now that summer's over, why do people tend to go into a bulking phase or a gaining phase at this time of the year? Why is it all about, right, not caring too much on aesthetics, and a lot of emphasis is put on either, one, not caring and not doing anything, or two, going super, super hard and eating tons of foods and try to put on as much weight as possible? It really comes down to the naivety of the fitness pursuit, which is you're not wearing little clothes and you don't have opportunities to go to the beach, right? It really comes down to that, because in those scenarios, that's where people want to feel confident in their body and they want to more or less show off their body. Some people might be trying to attract the opposite sex and all this sort of stuff, and being lean or muscular, whatever you want to brand it as, is going to attract that opposite sex. Now, within that realm, there's obviously some caveats to that. There's some unhealthy relationships that you can build with your body image and all that sort of stuff, but we're not going to scratch any of that on today's episode. We might touch on a part of it, but that's not going to be the main basis. But that is the reason why people tend to get in shape for summer and don't get in shape for winter, which is a bit weird when you say it out loud. It's like, why is it a season? Why is it not just something that we're permanently in? And this is actually a bit of advice I would like to share, that for the first time since, well, I'll be honest, this has been an on and off relationship actually, right up until I went on my honeymoon. And I don't know if the whole getting married and solidifying a partner for life gave this confidence as well, but not that I wasn't caring how I looked, I was just confident in how I looked. And I don't know what there's a couple of things that come to mind in terms of the difference of previous holidays that I'd been on, but on my honeymoon, I actually felt really comfortable for probably the first time in my own skin. I wasn't the biggest I'd ever been, I wasn't the leanest I would ever been, I felt strong. I had a really high appetite, which meant I could have a lot of food and not feel like that weight was going to those calories, should I say, was going to my waist. And I just felt strong, I felt happy, I felt healthy, I felt fit. And since that day, I have had a bit of kind of swaying from left to right where, yeah, okay, I've gained a bit of weight and then I've been a bit leaner. But ultimately, since getting married and being on that honeymoon, my mindset has really shifted, and I must admit it's one of the most empowering feelings that I felt when it came to my body image and my whole fitness journey. The obsession that I had from my bodybuilding days into just always try to be the biggest and leanest person in the room, it doesn't even scratch the surface of that, because it sort of shifted away from particularly on how I look, but more so on how I feel and how I look, if that makes sense. And this is something, as I said, I really wish everyone can get to experience. And if I'm being honest, it's a work in progress, but mainly it's something that kind of starts in the winter period, and building that stronger relationship with how your body looks ties into how we train. A lot of the training going into summer is an obscure amount of cardio, trying to burn as many calories as you can just to try and be a couple of pounds, a couple of kilos lighter on the scales, and then you associate that with, okay, I'm not as fat, and that just breeds this constant downward spiral in this cycle of never being good enough. So a little comparison that you can kind of draw this to is like anyone who is like financially successful, right, and they've got a ton of money, they're usually buying things constantly to try and reap the reward of happiness. And the same sort of thing happens if it's all about your looks. You're so fixated on your looks and you end up not getting to experience life and being happy in other areas. And that can be that you then become so miserable and so obsessed and so tied up in, no, I can't do anything because I need to gain 1 pound of muscle mass. And it's just so fixated on that one goal that other areas of your life then suffer. Your relationship with friends, just who you are as a person, you're not nice or interesting to be around. So there's lots that kind of go into this, but back to the whole confidence feeling, I would tie this to me changing the programming and me changing what my fitness goal was. And rather than chasing aesthetics, I started to chase health. And I heard this come up in a couple of podcasts before, and I went through this whole process before I sort of heard this message of chase health, not aesthetics. And when when I heard that message, I was like, fuck, that's one of the reasons I feel so much better now, because I've been pursuing this health goal, not necessarily just try to be as shredded and as lean as I can. Because let me tell you, being the most shredded person at the holiday hotel feels good for the first couple of days. Well, there's two parts to this. It feels good for the first couple of days. It does. It comes with a confidence boost. But then you realise is not everyone, in fact, very little people really care how everybody looks. So then you're like, right, okay, maybe I could have been a couple of percent more body fat and not have to feel dead restricted in my calories. But two, being that lean means you can't experience the luxuries of the food of the new country that you go into. So if you try and stay that lean over that 2 week period, it becomes very, very challenging to do so. And if you then, on the flip side of that, you're like, okay, right, I'm shredded now, I'm happy with how lean I've got, I'm going to start eating the foods that I love, you end up going in a bit of a binge. But the other thing as well that I've noticed in holidays that I've been on in the past, and maybe take about 4 days of eating moderate, high calories, not even like taking the piss, just enjoying the food of the hotel that we're staying at or the resort that we've been at. 4 days in, I'm like, wow, all that effort for 4 fucking days, like, fuck doing that again. And straight away, that's where in your mindset that starts to break down. This has probably happened to a lot of you guys. You put a lot of effort in, you graft, you show up to the HIIT workouts, you do your spin classes, you do your cardio, you do your gym session, and then you're really happy with where you've taken your body, but because it's all been focused on burning fucking calories, your body's used to those calories that it's burned. So you then go on holiday, you're not restricting your calories and you're not burning as many calories, so the rebound is so fucking hostile on your body that you're like, what, 4 days? For some people it might even be 2 days, for others it could be the week, but that feeling, you're then like, I just spent 4-5 months of this year pouring my heart and soul into this so-called fitness game, and it's only lasted a couple of days. What is the point? I'd rather just be fat, because at least I can be fat and happy. You ever heard someone say that? I'd rather just be fat and happy. It's like, why would you not just want to be happy and healthy, happy and strong? Why do those two things not go together? Because nobody thinks, or everyone sort of like pushes the message that having abs don't make you happy. And to an extent they don't, but the pursuit and the journey and how you go about that definitely can. So that's what we're going to go into. What is some of the things that you can do in the winter period? What are some of the things you can do now summer's over? Well, it comes back to, like I said there, chasing health. What does chasing health look like? It's putting other metrics on a goal. So there's two things that happen to people at this time of the year. A vast majority of us, motivation, climbing. Holiday hits. We're loving life. We feel good. Yeah, okay, we expect to gain a wee bit of weight. It's just part and parcel of what you've been doing, that vicious cycle you've been in over the last couple of years. You come back from the holiday and motivation, boom, it's down on the ground. Discipline is fucking wavered because you've not done anything in a couple of weeks. Anxiety starts to rise. You don't feel like your normal self and you're like, I can't be bothered. I've got no energy to do anything anymore. And then you think, I'm not going on holiday for another 9-10 months. You know what? I'll just take some time off the gym. I don't need to go to the gym. I'll pick that back up in the 12-week program that just so happens to get launched right before my next holiday. And then it becomes a whole, right, cool, I'll just do whatever I want. And it's like you've got this chain on you and someone lets the chain off and it's like, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do this. And you've never really truly learned any behaviours or any triggers and responses that you might have when it comes to your health and fitness, because all it's been fixated on is how you look. So this is what chasing health is. Chasing health is working on your relationship with food. It could be working on your mobility, your range of motion, maybe a lift within the gym, maybe trying to get stronger in a particular exercise, maybe trying to develop your endurance, your VO2 max, your grip strength, your pull-ups, your press-ups. The list is genuinely endless. And I'm going to go into a few pointers where I think is good things to try and pursue. But all in, like, if you want to keep that summer body and still being able to enjoy the pumpkin spice lattes or whatever pumpkin season thing that's out there, it's not one or the other. You can genuinely set up this resilient, strong, healthy body to continue the theme through this winter period and not feel like you're so restricted. And this is where the phrase reverse diet comes into. Every single person that has been on a quote-unquote cut or tried to get lean for a holiday should naturally go into a reverse diet. So we've done episodes in this in the past, but if this is the first time that you're hearing this, two things. I'm going to link below the whole episode that breaks down that whole process below in the description of this video. But two, briefly touching on it, a reverse diet is so powerful because you're consuming very little calories on the last couple of weeks coming into your final days of your cut. It's just part and parcel. You're squeezing every ounce of energy, or little energy, should I say, into trying to burn the last pound or two of fat. So when you come out that state, if you had to just eat whatever you want, your body then is kind of expecting to eat little calories, and it's not knowing what's happening when you give this influx of a massive amount of food that comes through, or calories that come through your digestive system. So you then start gaining a pound of fat, and then it's another pound of fat. To start with, it's a bit of water weight, and then you're like, man, I'm feeling like I've gained this weight back very quickly. And it simply comes down to that your body is adapted by eating little calories, and then that you've ate more than those little calories, your body's then stored that extra calories as energy, and that's how it's stored as fat. So how does a reverse diet work? How does that come into play? Well, reverse diet doesn't mean that it has to be as strict, but it definitely has to be some sort of the same sort of standards that go into place. So let's say you've done your cut, you kind of worked out that your calories when you're consuming as little as them, let's say they were down as low as 1,500 calories, just an easy number to pick, right? Whatever this number is for you, the number doesn't matter. What does matter is how you reverse out of this process. So you're used to eating 1,500 calories and you're like, right, cool. I've definitely got leaner, quite happy with the results I've got. How do I maintain these results? This is where the reverse diet comes in. So you would add anywhere from 300 to 400 calories. Depending on who you are, you might only add 100 calories. So if you're someone who is used to yo-yoing, dieting, not dieting, not dieting, you might want to start with 100 calories. And every single week, you're going to assess and put up the calories by an extra 100. So regardless, the reverse diet starts at 1,500. You then, week one, you increase your calories. So your calories go up. You usually put that up to, let's say, 1,800, maybe it's 1,600, maybe it's 1,900. I wouldn't go any higher than 500 calories to begin with. And you stay there for 6 weeks, okay? Anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks is a nice little window to stay at those calories, that calorie surplus. But what's most importantly is what you do with your training in this meantime. This is where, for everybody's training splits, I would change up your training split and I'd work on compound movements. Why? Because that's going to then fire the body up to try and build, try and be stronger overall. Now, you might have areas of your body that you want to develop. We'll talk about that in a little sec. But we need a strong stimulus of strength coming through the body. So that's where, if you're used to doing high reps, switch to low reps. If you're always used to doing low reps, then maybe actually bump the reps up to a moderate rep range, like 6 to 12, maybe even between 6 and 15. But if you're used to doing like circuit classes and all these sort of things, one of the best things you can do is generally get into the strength training aspect and pick a 3 to 6 rep range and just focus on those movements and getting confident in those movements and lifting weights. Now, what happens through this process then? Well, your body doesn't gain fat. So what I was saying before, if you just send this signal through your body where you're eating more food than what you were on your previous cut, then your body's going to store that extra energy as fat. So why doesn't it do it in your reverse diet? Well, it doesn't do that because as the stimulus that comes through your body that is looking to build strength and trying to build muscle, that extra surplus of calories gets utilised for those extra stores. So when you're creating the damage in the gym, this kind of little micro tears, or maybe tears isn't the right word, but ultimately if you break down what happens in the gym in your session, the stress that's done within the gym, that stress has kind of created damage in your muscles and your adaptation process. For that to kick in place, it needs an extra amount of calories coming through. And that's where your reverse diet comes into play. That's why it's so powerful to go into that phase, because you literally walk into the gym, you're like, man, I can't lift 30 kilos. And then by the extra surplus of calories, the extra energy that you have gives you the energy to push through those sets and actually move good. After that, that's then giving you more confidence towards your lift. You're then lifting heavier weights. You're then building muscle. You're building strength. You get to a time, if you're over a 4 to 6 week period, if you're following the right program, or if you're following a strength training program, as you get a couple of weeks down the line, you then have the option to increase the calories again, anywhere from 200 to 300. So your 1,500 calories that you started with, the cut or the lean calories, not lean calories, your cutting protocol for calories, should I say, that was moved to 1,800 on this average example. You then are on the 1,800 calories, you've been strength training, you then are able to bump it up again after a couple of weeks. So 1,800 becomes 2,000, and you just keep repeating that process until you feel that you're like, I can't eat this much food. I cannot get any more food within me. I can't consume any more food because it's a lot of food. And that's usually where you've taken your maintenance calories, so how much your body needs to burn, and without gaining weight or losing weight, you increase your maintenance calories, which maybe once upon a time was 1,500, upwards of 3,000. And so, some of the best cases I've seen is about 3,200, 3,300. Taking someone from what they could consume 1,500 calories on average. There's maybe a wee bit of loose tracking, should we say, but this just goes hand in hand with everyone. But taking them from there to be able to eat more food and see their body composition change in the way that they want it. And that's the fascinating thing about reverse dieting. So from a nutrition point of view, that's definitely what the focus should be for everyone. Like, I genuinely mean that, because if you just then don't have a kind of an approach to your nutrition, more or less, then it's back to that saying of the reins have been let off and you just kind of are let loose. And that again is an opportunity for you to work on your relationship with food, putting focus on, you know what, I'm going to make sure I hit my protein count, and I don't care about the calorie side of things, but if I get enough protein and fibre in, that is the main goal. And then it starts with, okay, am I getting enough fruit and vegetables in? Is there any other nutrients that I need to get in my diet? Sunlight's going down, so maybe I need to make an effort on supplementing some stuff. There's the list is endless on what you can do in your nutrition side of things, but reverse diet is key. Now, the reverse diet isn't that useful without the strength training aspect coming through. So when it comes to training, this is why you see everyone going on a bulk. But this, people sort of take the piss out of this, right? People, I hear it all the time and I see it all the time. Oh, I'm bulking, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, how many calories you having? Yeah, like 3,000-4,000. And it's like, right, where's that number came from? It's just how much I'm having. Are you tracking? Nah. And then it generally is. It's just from the status that they've convinced themselves they're bulking because they're having Nutella pancakes every morning. Like, it's just an excuse to eat like shit. And I'm telling you, that's not bulking. That's not a proper gaining phase. Now, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. Because there's another part to this conversation that we need to go into, and that is the social aspect of life. When it comes to cutting and leaning out and getting a leaner physique, sacrifices need to be made. And that puts stress in your social circumstances. If you're out drinking, partying, out with friends, and it revolves around drinking alcohol, eating out, all that sort of things, it does become a hard balancing act. But see, when you go into a gaining phase or a bulking phase, the same stress applies. Just because you have more food that you can consume doesn't mean it doesn't make it any easier or harder. It's the same energy that needs to go into that, and the same planning, the same structure. And here's the part, it needs to be consistent, because see, when you're in your gaining phase and you drink and you go out with friends and then you've got a hangover the next morning, the last thing you want to do when you're hungover is consume 3,000 calories. Normally it's a takeaway and that's it. You just want to lie on the couch and do nothing. And that doesn't help you in the process of gaining muscle, gaining strength, all that sort of things. Now, I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer here. There is ways to still socially enjoy yourself, and that is something to consider. Whether you're leaning out or gaining or in your gaining phase, depending on how regimented your goal is, will depend on how flexible you want to be with this. But if you start to move away from how your body looks and focus on your performance in the gym, trying to get stronger on a particular lift, trying to pursue a mobility, range of motion pursuit, then this will give you the freedom and the flexibility not to always be looking at yourself in front of the mirror or looking at the number on the scales. I would say if you're really struggled and challenged with being fixated in how your body looks and what the weight is in the scales, I would take a picture front, side and back. I would take some measurements and I would take the weight in the scales right at the start of this process and then put them to the side, right? The only metrics that you should decide is if you're progressing or not progressing is by looking at writing down the numbers and the lifts that you're getting in the gym. And a good phased programming will be one of the best ways to do this, because you can see week 1 I was squatting X and now I'm squatting Y. Week 6 I was squatting X, now I'm squatting Y. Now this is where programming can be very insightful. Maybe downloading a program from someone that you follow, someone that you trust, maybe getting a program from myself. Maybe we've got the Starting Strong program that we launched last year, a fantastic 12 or 6 months program that you can follow through the winter period, get stronger, get fitter, get healthier, but it gives you that ability to put that focus and energy into those lifts that go into the gym. Now, to be straight up and honest with you guys, there is a common thing that happens during the winter period, and that is like the post-summer blues. We want to be soaking up the sunlight, drinking a cocktail on the beach or whatever it is that you're used to doing, but it can be hard when you see your body shape changing and you're maybe not as lean as you were before. But short-term pain for long-term gain, okay? So kind of to get over that hurdle is like, right, I know I'm not as maybe lean as I once was, but I'm definitely stronger. And that's where the scales start to tip. On one side, the scales are so heavily focused on being this certain way and looking a certain way, and there's not much excitement about being strong in the gym. But as your strength starts to progress, it gives you that hit of that dopamine hit, that done of, man, that I feel really good. I fucking felt great. I was lifting that weight. And that's where the post-summer blues, that's where you can combat that a little bit. So another thing with this is the goal setting side of things. Everyone's got the goal because they book the holiday and the deadline's set. That is the goal that you work towards, and your hands forced. So do the same with your quote unquote off season or your winter season. Set a goal through that. I want to be able to lift X. I want to be able to do Y movement. I want to be able to achieve X amount of pull-ups, press-ups, whatever it is, and work towards that goal, because it'll keep you streamlined. That's why all these fat loss programs work, because a photo shoot and a holiday gets booked. That's the deadline. That's the goal. Now, they may be sexier than, I want to deadlift my body weight. I want to deadlift 2 times my body weight. It doesn't matter what it is. It just needs to be right for you. And that's some things to consider. So what's some other things you can focus on than your aesthetics? Well, you've got reduced stress, you've got your heart health, your joint health, your mobility, your overall strength, and these are all important pillars. These are all important pillars of health and fitness. For true longevity, fat loss is one little fraction of the pie, and we have all these other fractions that make this holistic approach towards a healthier and stronger life. So there's multiple things that you can do within those categories, of course, but let's just say, yeah, Dale, I hear you. I get what you're saying. I know I need to have good endurance. I know I need my heart health to be in good order. I know I need to reduce my stress, work on my relationship with my food, my body. But all I care about is having abs. I just want to be toned and defined and all this sort of stuff, right? Well, here's another wee secret for you. You cannot build muscle reducing your calories, right? Some people, it may give that illusion, but very few people can get away with that. In fact, there's little to no people that can get away with that. Some new beginners who are getting into weightlifting, if they've got a lot of muscle, they've got a lot of fat mass to utilize as energy, they are the only category of people that happens to, and it only happens for a short period of time. So if we want to look more toned, look more ripped, look more defined, have more muscle, then we need to increase our calories and send the stimulus through to build that muscle. So right back to what we said about 10, 15 minutes ago, putting the energy and focus into good programming, lifting compound movements or even lifting machine movements, but structuring that through that we're getting more reps, more sets, and we're progressively overloading those lifts through the coming weeks and months or whatever. Doing that in your winter season or your winter arc, should I say, will mean next time you start to lose weight, because you've built more muscle, you don't need to lose as much fat mass to see those muscles shine through. And an example would be myself. Actually, I've done this a couple of times. I've seen it with clients where they have abs and their abs show a higher body fat body fat percentage compared to most. And that's because they've developed that muscle to be bigger and thicker. So it means it comes through the body fat at higher body fat percentage. Now, of course, you can still lean out and make them even more defined. But then again, you're back in that rat race of how defined do you want it to look? Because at the end of the day, it's all very subjective. It's all very in your head. You might be absolutely shredded, but the person that you're looking at in the mirror, you're thinking to yourself, I wish I was bigger, I wish I was that, I wish I was this. And your friend next to you is like, man, you look amazing, I wish I looked like you. So it's like a catch-22. So remember that the only way to build muscle is being in a calorie surplus. Back to the reverse diet. Now, you could skip that whole process and just bump 1,000 calories onto your nutritional window and stay there for a period of time and start to build muscle. As a bit of advice I would give you, if that's going to be the approach that you take, again, every 4 to 6 weeks, assess. And if you're being very strict with increasing your calories, kudos to you because you're doing an excellent job, but you may want to increase the calories a little bit more as you build more muscle mass, because with more muscle mass, we need more fuel to come through the body. And that's why the more muscle mass that you have, the kind of higher your calorie consumption can be. So then when you go out for food and you maybe want to order a dessert, but every time you order the dessert, you feel like it goes straight to your waistline. That doesn't happen because your metabolism is firing a lot more with more muscle mass. So with that point, I'll just say, remember, this is real life, right? This is life here. How you look in an Instagram picture has no merit to what you're able to do in everyday life. So if you can move good and you can lift heavy stuff, that has way more merit than the profile picture on Instagram. And I would argue that would attract the person that you may be looking for. So another option here is maybe you've done a good job when you've came out of your leaning phase or your cutting phase and you're happy with what you got. And you might think, I'm a wee bit scared to add more calories in, because that can be another nervous thing for a lot of people. Sometimes you might just go back to your maintenance, back to what your calories were before, and hold that position and see how your body does to that. You don't always need to bulk. Don't feel the pressure just because we're in the winter arc. You can still bring your body back up to maintenance. And yeah, okay, you might not develop as much muscle, but you can certainly get back some of the strength gains that you may have lost. Because through your cut, through eating less calories, you don't have that energy or force output to maybe lift the weight that you were once lifting. So that allows you to get back into that. And it's weird because when you look at bulking, a lot of people seem to think that, yeah, you just need to eat whatever you want, eat hundreds of food, and they generally just bulk their way through every McDonald's drive-through, every takeaway drive-through, just because they use the word bulking. But as I said earlier, that ain't bulking. That is not what it's about. Now, during the winter months, particularly here in Scotland, in the UK, it gets dark about 5, 6 p.m, like pitch black outside. So steps become a challenging target to hit. It becomes colder, it becomes rain, it becomes rainier, wet, windy, all that sort of thing. So it certainly becomes harder to hit some of those challenges. But adjust your goals. Just because you hit 15,000 steps in the summer doesn't mean you have to hit 15,000 steps in the winter. Now, there's a part within me that's like, look, come on, your skin's waterproof, put on a jacket, get yourself out there. But that might not be what you want to do. It might be who says that 15,000 steps is any better than doing 12,000 steps? It depends on the goal, okay? And this is why your goal needs to be important. Now, if your goal is health, any research points to at least 7,500 steps every single day. So see if you hit that. Yeah, okay, you might see a wee bit of weight gain happening, but that allows you to scale back and not feel the same stress, pressure and anxiety of trying to hit a number. Because if you keep failing the number that you're trying to hit and you're getting all this stress and you're getting overwhelmed over it, you're not sleeping as much, then guess what? It's not a healthy target to hit. Targets need to be flexible. They need to adapt and move to whatever change of scenario that's happened or change of season. And it allows you, I guess the main thing here is just because you drop from 15,000 steps to 8,000 steps, for example, with that drop, you've gained another 45 minutes to an hour back in your day. So what are you going to do with that day, with that time? Put it into your self-development, put it into other areas, put it into your mobility, change up the scenery, change up the sort of focus and what you do with that time. Because at this time of year, it certainly makes things harder it harder to get up in the morning. And yeah, it might be freezing outside, but here, this is where coffee lovers out there, coffee sales spike through the roof during the winter period because it becomes like a ritual. have a cup of coffee or drive to your favourite coffee shop and then get into your morning workout and all that sort of stuff. Now, another thing, this time of year can be quite depressing to be around some people because it's like, oh, look at the weather, oh, it's so dark, so miserable, blah, blah, blah. I want you to try and challenge yourself to see the good in it, right? So winter, I love dark nights, getting cozy, cuddling up on the couch and a nice wee cup of tea or whatever it is. Like, there's so much good and value that can happen from the winter nights, right? Is it better than summer? Who knows? It's your judgment. It's whatever you care about most. I love winter. I love when it's colder in the mornings. I love getting out because see that crisp morning that you can get where the sun's out, but it's like 2 degrees outside. You can see your breath. I generally love getting outdoors when it's like that. It's very therapeutic. It's very meditative, and you'll have your own. Think about the winter period. Like, Christmas is obviously a big thing for everyone. It can be a wee bit challenging for some families, of course, but find some good in it, right? Find some good. Winter might be coming, but just remember those gains are coming too, and stay strong and healthy, and that'll be the best way you can get through this. Now, if you're looking for a program, if you're looking for some structure on the way through that, I'm going to start launching some of the workshop programs that I'm doing with guys one-to-one. They can be purchased online, and you can get access to my training app. And within that training app, you can be guided through your sets, reps, structure, all that good stuff. I'm going to leave a link below because this is going to be launching in about November time. So if it is something you're interested in, register your interest, and I will be happy to pass that over to you in the next coming weeks if it's something you would like to get more structure on. And look, I'll finalise a couple of points here. Fitness doesn't end when summer ends. Fitness is generally something that we should all be pursuing every season of the year, right? Every week, every month, there should be something that we're doing to stay active, to stay healthy, to feel good. And that can look like 5 gym workouts a week. It can look like 7. It can also look like 1, right? It can also be, you know what, I'm going to go a group hike with some people, or I'm going to join maybe a more expensive gym just so I can use the steam room and sauna. It generally might be that's how you switch things up. It doesn't matter what you do. So I would encourage you guys to play like badminton or paddle. These are like racket sports that require just hiring out at a hall, because that's activity at the end of the day. It's also a way to socialise and connect and have fun with some friends. And it's some things that I've put off in the past because I'm like, you're a gimp if you play squash, badminton or paddle, and then played it a couple of months back and I'm like, fucking love this, because I love the competitive side of it. I love being active. I love moving my body, and I love how it feels when you're moving your body. And that might open up a can of worms. So you're like, I've got a really sore ankle every time I play insert X sport. Well, guess what? That's your opportunity to work on it. Because as you're fueling your body with more food, there's more nutrients moving around your body, and you can really work on your mobility and strength so you have a more resilient body. Why would we not pursue that? Because I tell you one thing, if that ankle keeps giving you bother and you struggle to walk in that in years to come, it doesn't matter how shredded you are, because you're walking about like fucking Tin Man. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check the show notes for all from free guides, register your interest for the program, and if you're interested in joining any of the one-to-one workshops that I'll be doing, the next intake won't be for another little while, but you may as well register in that, and you can be first to know when I open up some new ones. Thank you as always for listening to today's episode. Let me know what some of your favourite things that you love to do when it comes to the winter period. How do you change up your training? What do you do when it comes to nutrition? Let's help each other out. Let's share some tips. And until next time, have a good one.